Hey everyone, if you're Canadian and just a consumer or a taxpayer, in other words, not part of government or part of the corporate class in this country, well, you've probably heard the expression before, shit slides downhill. Well, guess what? You're at the bottom of that hill. And if you are one of those people, which is the bulk, the overwhelming majority of Canadians, most Canadians are taxpayers and consumers. Most Canadians do not own their own business, and most Canadians are not those in control of government or pulling the levers or mechanisms of government or part of the connected ruling class. As the consumer, as the taxpayer, well, I mean, you probably already understood intrinsically that the government is always seeking to socially and economically enslave you. These are the people that want to go into positions of so-called authority. That's basically the very premise and job description of their particular occupation. But like I say, the corporate class, well, what we're seeing today is complacency and conformity is showing and rearing its ugly head. You at the bottom of the pile there, yeah, you got nowhere, there's nowhere for you to pass the buck to. Like you can't just offload all that crap onto someone else because there's nobody below you. The corporate class, they realize at least they're high enough up in the hierarchy that they can avoid it, and what they're hedging their bets on today is, hey, if we cozy up to government, that'll place us at a much higher level, and then we can rise even further above that stench and not get mired or muddled in the shit, unlike the consumer or the taxpayer. Headline, CBC News under the Technology and Science section, Canadian Chamber of Commerce solidly backs carbon pricing. Businesses concerned about use of carbon pricing as political bargaining chip. This being reported by Emily Chung, December 17th, 2018. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce says the business community in Canada is solidly backing carbon pricing as the way for it to play its part in the fight against climate change. And it wants governments to stop playing politics and waffling about it. Well, first of all, how is a business, if you own a business, think about it, if you own a business, how are you going to assume that personal responsibility for playing an active role in climate change? Well, when you're talking about carbon pricing or a carbon tax, that is basically to suggest that the people in the corporate world in Canada are willing to swallow that cost or absorb that cost for themselves. But in reality, what they truly mean, once again, they're using political rhetoric here, what they're truly saying is they're more than willing to implement some kind of a price mechanism on carbon or pollution or whatever. But the difference is, you know how it's going to work. It's going to be passed on to you, the consumer and the taxpayer. Why else would these businesses be willing to adopt a top-down authoritarian increase on their cost of doing business? If it's not that they've realized that, hey, they'll just pass that cost on to someone else. I mean, I know myself as someone who has owned a business. If government imposed economic hardships on me and I wanted to be relieved of that imposition, well, it would be quite easy. I would just, let's say I sell one product, 10 products, 1,000 products. I would just distribute the costs over all of those products, which would offload my own personal responsibility and wouldn't affect my own bottom line. It would be passed on to, like I say, the consumer or the taxpayer, which, once again, I repeat myself because they're basically the same thing. A taxpayer and a consumer, you're both, actually, in this country. If you're a taxpayer, you're a consumer. If you're a consumer, you're a taxpayer. The group, which bills itself as the voice of Canadian business and represents 200,000 companies across the country, released a report this past week as international climate talks were wrapping up in Katowice, Poland, arguing strongly in favor of carbon pricing such as carbon taxes and cap-and-trade systems. It sees this as the most cost-effective way to transition Canada to a low-carbon economy and proposes how it would like to see carbon pricing implemented. Like I say, they call it, the name of this organization is the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, but think about it. If you were living in a full-on socialist or communist regime or communist or socialist country, you would have an entity such as this, some kind of bureaucracy that would probably be named along the same lines as something such as the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. Because, I mean, well, in a private market environment, these are just private actors. They're just private businesses. But like I say, in Canada, under our quasi-socialist regimes, whether they come from the left or the right, as far as the political aisle or the political divide goes, they're all about creating a one-size-fits-all approach and micromanaging the actions of like hundreds of thousands of businesses, which probably comprises millions of people that make these businesses flourish. Like I say, this is, I don't know why anyone even pretends anymore. Canada is, you might as well just say, I mean, we're not full 100%, but as far as being a socialist country, I don't know, what, 80%? I mean, I guess it'd be hard to try to figure out just how fully socialist both the social and economic aspects of what it is to live and reside in this country. Like I said, I don't know where you're going to go measure that at, but it's becoming very, very difficult to even try to put forth a present that there's actually, there is some capitalism that still happens in this country, but like I say, it's so obscured and overridden by the central planners that, well, only the most ambitious, entrepreneurial, and successful could even possibly try to function within this regime. And even then, well, the government's still going to control and micromanage, how your business model plays out. So in reality, no matter what you do, your success or failure is now residing in the hands of central planners. They're the ones that now pick the winners or losers in the economy. So I guess everyone out there now of the corporate world saying, well, we want to remain relevant. We want to be part of the winners. We don't want to be picked as the losers. So I guess since government now is the arbiter and dictator as to who is the winner or loser in the economy, well, like I say, everyone's now flocking to the government or those who represent government as a means to, hey, please pick me. Please let me be a winner. I don't want to be a loser. Of course, they're all doing it by sacrificing, like I say, the end user or the consumer, which is the taxpayer, once again. So you really need to start standing up for yourself, folks. It's not just against big government, but every bit as important, big corporations. I mean, just the sheer fact that they're using it even. I mean, another thing too I want to point out is just the sheer fact that, listen to this, it sees this as the most cost-effective way to transition Canada to a low-carbon economy and proposes how it would like to see carbon pricing implemented. Right? This is this, entity or organization that's now being talked about as if it is a human being or a representation of a singularity. Like I say, we live in such a collectivized world these days. Like, collectivism really does rule the day as far as how we live, cohabitate, and coexist with each other. It's just full-on top-down authoritarianism. And this pretense, like I say, religion has been replaced. So there's not God that people refer to anymore as the singularity that guides our moral or social or economic habits or behaviors. No, government has replaced God, and government is now the ultimate arbitrator, which is just a representation of people, right? Very corrupt, very immoral people. But once again, they like to talk as if they're speaking as a singularity with one voice. Scary stuff, folks. Let me tell you, this kind of collectivism, well, just look to the 20th century if you want to learn how detrimental top-down collectivism is to any citizenry or any population in any geographical landmass. Business wants to play its part in the fight against climate change, but our public policy has to balance our climate objectives with the need to ensure Canada remains attractive to start or grow a business and to invest, said Parent Beattie, the group's president and CEO and a former Conservative MP, in a statement. Aaron Henry, the group's director of natural resources and environmental policy and the author of the new report, said the group's members believe carbon pricing is probably the most effective mechanism of emissions reduction. In a statement accompanying the release of the report, he added, Canadian businesses of all sizes are prepared to accept carbon pricing as a cost of doing business, but remains very concerned that governments will continue to use it as a political bargaining chip instead of delivering a pricing policy that is simple and works well. The report cites conclusive evidence from the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development about the high cost of climate change, including impacts like more intense floods, fires, and storms, and for the need to reduce emissions. I mean, once again, it's just constantly referencing these unelected bureaucrats or these bodies that, once again, these are the people that are, like I say, having a huge amount of influence because, like I say, they have a tremendous amount of political clout. Well, especially when they join up to their political counterparts, right? Is what we're seeing today, to force and impose whatever they deem necessary onto the suspecting or even the unsuspecting populations of any particular country. Like I say, we now are being rolled over by a collective type system that places oligarchical type figures as elitists and experts and suggests that whatever they say, well, that's the way to go, folks. And don't even try to go against them, because no, these are your, not just your political masters and your information and thought leaders, these are basically your gods. And how dare you stand in opposition or question their authority or question their morality or why they're trying to impose this on the people. They just want you to sit down, shut up, and take whatever they're force feeding you. And if you dare to stand in opposition, well, they've got a lot of tools at their disposal, a lot of weapons in their arsenal that they'll use against you. And that's what we're seeing out there today, and that's why you're seeing a whole lot of people having their speech silenced or suppressed, or being deplatformed, defunded, or having their social or economic lives hampered and destroyed as a result of daring to go against the elitists or the political orthodoxy of the day. Our need to transition to a low-carbon economy is clear, but it is equally clear that businesses must have assurances that the regulatory regime guiding this transition will be stable, predictable, and straightforward, the report says. So I guess, please tell me what to do. Well, what a fucking bunch of inept, well, not only are they corrupt, but they're inept and incompetent at this point in time to do anything going forward. I mean, think about it. If you have a business model where the consumer, the people that are the end users of your product or your service, why would you ever think that you have to create a one-size-fits-all approach? Like, just do your thing. Be a decent, moral human being. And if you're a capitalist, make sure you're making a profit. Make sure you're doing things right. Use some ethical standards for your business practices. Take care of your consumers. Take care of your workforce. And that really should be the only thing that you should be worried about as a business owner. But like I say, now they're stepping outside the realm of even worrying about their own business. Now they're like what? Like I say, the preachers, the priests. It seems like the corporate and the governing class have turned into the priest and priestess class these days, where they don't just want to sell you a product or a service. No, they want to literally tell you how to even think or act morally or ethically, as if these are the people that have any ground to stand upon. Like I say, these are people that are cozying up to government. These are people that are more than willing to throw their consumer, the people that actually have made their business successful, they're willing to throw everyone under the bus for the sake of carrying favor to their political masters. Anyways, I'll post a link to this article in the description of the video. I don't want to read any more from it. To me, though, when I seen this, that the Chamber of Commerce in Canada, it's like I say, the people that are supposed to be representing the business community in this country, when I see that they're basically turning to that authoritarian mentality, well, I just can't help but think fascism, right? I mean, some people like to call it cronyism, crony capitalism, corporatism. Fascism is another perfect example when the corporate world and the government, like the authorities in government and the authorities in the corporate world, when they come together and show a sense of solidarity with each other, well, like I say, there's only one area that's left in that equation. There's only one group left in that equation. Government, corporate, and like I say, the consumer, the taxpayer. There's three segments that we're talking about here. And when two of those segments have come together and joined forces, well, that one segment that's left, which is, like I say, you, the lowly consumer or the lowly taxpayer, when they gang up and join forces to impose their will, their mandates or edicts on you, well, you're the one that, once again, is going to suffer the most. And like I say, you don't have the power that they have as far as with the money, right? You don't have that. That's a given. You don't have the lobbying capacity or capabilities either because, once again, you don't have this. Nor do you have the pretense that everybody believes that you're their authority. So you're not a government or a representative government. So the only thing you, as a lowly consumer, as a lowly taxpayer, the only thing that you have is to withdraw your support completely for any of them, whether it's the government or whether it's the corporate class. Stop consuming the products. Look who these 200,000 companies are that are aligned with this. Stop consuming the products. Find something else. Do something else. Make sure you're going against them and not supporting them, because if you're supporting them, you're literally helping them to economically enslave you at this point. So you got to withdraw your support, and ultimately, if that doesn't work, if that's not enough, and they're still doing what they're doing, well, I mean, like I say, once you've tried to express with words, once you've tried to express that I don't want to be oppressed anymore, and the people that oppress you, they're still continuing to oppress you and seemingly want to ramp up the amount of oppression they want to put forth and present towards you, well, what's left when speech is gone, folks? When you can't talk to them, when you can't beg your masters to leave you alone, when you can't beg the ruling class or plead with them to just let you be free in some way, well, like I say, I'll leave it up to you to figure out, when words no longer work, what your next available option truly entails. Like I say, I'll leave that to your imagination, but at this point in time, like I say, it doesn't seem that the Canadian people in particular, now there's lots of revolution type things and massive protests and civil strife, lots of stuff that's happening in lots of countries around the world that are people that are showing that at least they're willing to stand in defense of their rights and freedoms. Canada, I'm still not seeing it. Still not seeing it, Canada. You're not even willing to do something as simple as don a yellow vest and go out to the tune of, tens of thousands or 100,000 people and show the Canadian government and the corporate class in this country that, no, you're not going to fucking treat us like garbage anymore. No, you're not treating us like second-class citizens in our own country anymore. And the central planners and the corporate class are taking heed and taking notice, and they're like, well, that's why they're doing what they're doing. The Canadians are very sheepish, and they're willing to allow us to do whatever the hell we want to them. So they're going to do it. If you allow them to do it, they're going to do it. And before I tie this video up, when I see these fucking pathetic protests, don't expect me to show up to your fucking protests when there's 100 or 500 even if there's 1,000. Take your little pathetic piece of shit protest, which all you're doing is wasting your time. You're just wasting your day, because your efforts are going unnoticed, and nobody gives a shit about if there's even 100 or 200 or 500. Like I say, even 1,000, although how many times you even see 1,000 people protest in this country? Rare, right? So a couple hundred, the ruling class and the corporate class, they don't give a shit about a couple hundred people, and I would never be so fucking stupid that I want to embarrass myself to the point of showing up when there's only a couple hundred people. You show me when Canadians are fully on board with standing up for the rights and freedoms, when there's like at least 100,000 of us, maybe, then I'll start to that. I'm with you. I'm with you. Matter of fact, I'll be at the front of the line. But I'm not going to place myself in any precarious or fucking foolish situation or circumstance when it's going to be for nothing. When the end result will be just, I did it for the sake of wasting my time once again. No. Like, I tried a couple protests. This was many, many years ago. But once again, it only took me a couple times to realize, look at, what was there? Like I say, 50, maybe 100. Nobody gives a shit about seeing that. The ruling class, like I say, they don't give a crap when they see that. Matter of fact, they look and laugh at you. Matter of fact, they love to get the media. Hey, go get footage of that so they can show out there that, look, these people are nothing. They represent nothing. They're no threat to us. They're pathetic. Look at them. Sorry, folks, some harsh reality, but that's kind of what I do. It's a Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.